All right, Kelvin, thanks for hopping on, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Mario. It's been great.
All right, let's do this. So basically, like I mentioned, the goal for today is just to kind of hear a little bit about your story and some of the benefits that you got. Obviously, I've loved working with you, and you've had some awesome results, and just hope that your experience can help somebody who's listening. So, kind of like the first question is just tell me a little bit about you and what led to you starting coaching in the first place.
So I've always been like mostly high achieving athletically and academically. So it's been a little tough in the last year or so, 2 years in my career because I don't always necessarily get the wins and my mindset hasn't been very strong. So I was like, at the point when I started coaching with you, I was like stuck in a rut. I was frustrated. I was letting my environment set my tone and my day, and I just knew I wasn't where I wanted to be, and I needed some clarity on where to go from there. So, and I
Yeah.
guess kind of led into the segue of like, so I found Mario through Instagram, and I always have followed like some personal growth, and I've always kind of had a growth mindset. I just haven't always implemented it the best way. I'll read the 7 habits and I'll put it down, and I didn't touch it for like a year. And then like Think and Grow Rich, I touched and then like finished 6 months later. So it's like one of those where I needed a little bit of a kick in the ass to get going into the right mode.
Well, I think that's such a good point because like I've fallen into that trap too, where it's like you're struggling with something, and the first thing that you think about is like, what do I need to learn about this? I need to get better at this. And you just read books, you listen to podcasts, you listen to audiobooks, but then you never actually implement it. And that's where it's like you might have like a growth mindset, but are you actually practicing it?
Yeah.
And I think I totally understand that.
Yeah, you can there's the difference is you're preparing for the growth mindset, you're not doing the growth mindset. it's
Mm,
it's you're in the planning phase, you're not in the action phase. So
yeah.
I needed the transition from the planning phase to the action phase.
Well, I think that's why you were able to like make such big changes so quickly because you had kind of like all of the pieces, had the desire, you knew that you wanted to get promoted at work, you knew that you wanted to get back in the gym, and it was just like adding that structure and changing kind of like the self-talk and then really implementing it. So, for you, like what were some of the most helpful aspects from our coaching that helped you?
So I would say like probably the clarity was the biggest one, because I think that's probably the biggest thing that I was lacking was what direction I wanted to go, and the accountability to like stick to the changes that we're going to make or trying to make. And then like the focusing on the smaller habits to get some momentum was probably the biggest thing, because like when you check off all the boxes on the habit share for the day, you feel good, you feel like you won the day then.
Yeah.
Like where before I didn't have any metric of like being able to track anything. Like so like even if you had a rough day at work, your workout wasn't that good, or you didn't work out, and then it's like, okay, did I win or did I lose today? And you don't know.
Mm.
So that's kind of part of it too. And then I think like the mindset to get the momentum to keep moving in the correct direction was probably the biggest thing.
Okay. Yeah, so you said clarity, accountability, kind of the small wins, and then mind like just implementing the growth mindset, right?
Yeah.
Because I remember even like the first thing that we started with was like a longer term vision. Like, where do you actually want to go? And I think that whenever somebody's stuck in a rut, well, like something that's really helpful is like helping them understand, all right, I know you're like right here right now, but like let's jump into the future and try and figure out the path. And
Yeah.
then let's build the small wins to get there. And can you just talk about like how did the small wins and the momentum actually help you?
So I would say like when you're in like the lull point or the rut, you're looking to get out of it as quickly as possible is what the gut instinct is.
Yeah.
The problem with that is the quick fix may not fix it long term.
Yes.
So you like I think what I realized when I was when we were in our coaching calls is that this isn't something that we're going to be able to like you can climb out of it fast, but to maintain and keep out of it, it's a daily grind that you're going to have to do to keep going forward to the direction of. So like I always look at it as like I'm an engineer. So when we did the clarity exercises, we were engineering the future.
Yes.
So we have to determine what steps we need to take today to get to that end goal. So it's a project. What we wrote is the PRS. It's the product requirements.
Yep.
That's where we want to be in that amount of time. Okay, we want to build this life in that amount of time. So I would call it the life requirement section or sheet.
Oh, that's so
There
good.
you go. So it's a life requirement sheet. So
This is a new product you're spinning up right
yep.
now.
Oh yeah, this is my start to engineering coaching.
Exactly. You're gonna be a performance coach for engineers now
Yeah.
after your own.
So
I,
yeah,
you're right.
the life product sheet or the life performance sheet.
But I think that that's exactly how I think about it because I'm a big believer in reverse engineering. Where are you at? Where do you want to be? And then working backwards from where you're at, what are the steps that you need to take? And you made a good point. The steps that you need to take, that's like a daily decision and that's daily progress. Like whenever I've been in a rut in the past, you're always kind of like just waiting for one thing to just magically change it all. But the reality is the way that you make those changes is by making small steps and small progress every day. And that's where I think the habit tracker and just like seeing those small wins really helped you. So do you remember like how quickly did you once we got started, how quickly did you feel like you started to like see improvements and like
I,
feel different?
I would say like halfway in, like 2 weeks in, we were ready, at least on the curve headed up.
Yeah,
So like it was like the first
I
call.
remember that.
Yeah, like we made like there was some big traction made after we had the habit tracker set up. Once we started checking boxes, I feel like it was like it kind of clicked. It's like, hey, like maybe I was doing some of these things, but not consistently enough to get the results I wanted.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
like I was working out and I was doing some of the other stuff, like, but it may not have been consistently enough. Like, because it's like, okay, the half hour a day at the gym, you live in the valley of disappointment for 6, 8 weeks to 12 weeks, but at the end of that 12 weeks, you're gonna feel and look better after that. So it's like it's sticking with it, and that's what's holding you accountable to stick with it longer. Is hey, it's on my habit tracker. We need to do it. So
Yeah. I think that's a great point. And so once you were able to stack those wins, I remember just kind of the shift in your energy. And I remember you started to see some progress. And so now reflecting back on it, what are some of the results that you're the most proud of? What were some of the changes like at work and in your personal life that you want to share?
so I would say probably the biggest win was I got my promotion that I had been waiting for like over half a year or more.
Let's
Official
go.
officially, yeah. So that was
I was so pumped for you.
yeah, got that news on a Friday, had a good weekend after that. So it's like, yeah, and it's kind of been, I think it was the step that we needed. So like we noticed at work, we would always like, we'd work all week, we get one win on Friday. And we finally broke through and got a win on Wednesday yesterday. I was talking with one of my other coworkers on the same project. It's like, yeah, we're ahead of schedule by 2 days. I'm like, okay, well, that means we're gonna get a win on Wednesday and a win on Friday then.
Yeah, you're
So
looking
it's
for the
like,
wins.
yeah, I was just like, I just started being like that at work, and it's been better. The thing too is like, now that I got the news, before I was like in a set of like, oh, I'm not at that level yet. So I didn't necessarily always step into the shoes when I got to
Yeah.
work some days. Where now that I know I have it, I'm pushing a little harder and I stepped into the shoes. I'm saying, hey, I can lean into this now because like I know I'm not gonna have to wait any really that much longer until I'm officially there, which I was already there. I just wasn't. It just didn't reflect.
You're bringing like the growth mindset and the confidence now to work.
Yeah, and I feel like the mindset change has shifted how I work and how I manage my priorities at work. So
Mm,
I don't always necessarily focus on like the hottest thing that somebody else has for me because that may not be the thing I
yeah.
need to be working on. So like I'm getting better at the point of, hey, just because this is urgent doesn't mean it's my most important thing that I need to be doing. Or like sometimes I have to give up the urgent the level or the three tasks to work on two tasks, as in
Yep.
the habits. I need to stay in section two because
Yeah.
that's where you're going to get your biggest gains from a work standpoint, from a life standpoint. The like you have to plan those. You have to make
One-
time.
100%. Yeah, I think it's like again, it's just clarity. Like what am I where am I going? What are my priorities? What do I need to stay focused on? And so obviously like just the growth mindset at work, the promotion. Was there any other like results or wins that looking back on it you're proud of?
I would say too, my relationships a lot better because I was when I was in my rut, I wasn't pouring as much energy and emotional energy into it.
Yeah.
So I would say that's been a win. That's been a lot better since I started coaching. And then I would also say like my gym habit has gotten better, with the exception of some other circumstances that I couldn't control. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's like just multiple areas. And I think this is the benefit to like working on your mindset because when you work on your mindset and yourself, it just carries over everywhere. And for all of those areas, we had like a habit that we were working on for each one that you were tracking consistently. And I think that's why you got such great results. And honestly, one thing I want to point out about you is you are so consistent every time once you started using it, it was just green. And that is 100% why you were able to get out of like your rut so quickly and see these results is because you're so consistent. And it's a really like unsexy thing for a lot of people, but consistency is so key. And so I just want to highlight that for you. And so um this has been really good, and thank you for sharing all of this. I'm just curious, is there any advice for somebody who's kind of like in a rut or they're on the fence, they're thinking about joining a program? Any advice that you have for them?
I would say like don't be afraid to get more help than yourself is willing than you allow yourself to get.
Mm,
Sometimes you need to like break down the barrier. It is difficult to like open up other people, like, especially tough stuff like, hey,
yeah,
I'm stuck in this rut. Like, this isn't fun. Like, kind of thing. Like, some people like to hide, but I feel like once I got going in the coaching, it was like night and day. We had like turned the switch
it
from
really was.
like when we started like week one to after week two's call, it was a complete night and day difference in like 2 weeks.
Yeah,
So like if you're consistent, it isn't going to take some people like they're afraid of how long it's going to take, but it's one of those where like if you're consistent and you take the right steps, it doesn't have to be a long thing. Like, you may just need the kickstart, like, and give yourself that time and invest in that.
yeah. And now moving forward, you know that this is the process to get that kickstart and to make those changes. So anytime that you have some adversity or an obstacle in the future, you can come back to this process. And it's something like once you start getting those small wins, you start looking for it everywhere and you want more of it. And so, really good work. It was awesome. It's been awesome working with you, and thanks for taking the time to share your story. So, everybody who's listening, if you want to like reach out and have a conversation, just send me a DM on Instagram or just book a call with me down below. So thanks, Calvin.
Thanks, Mario.